because of what took place last night. We had a historic victory for the American people. People are starting to see how great this historic victory was. The passage of the massive tax cuts and reform. It's a lot of reform in there, but the tax cuts supersede it. This bill means more take-home.
And so on. The president today repeatedly touting the historic nature of the Republican tax bill throughout his first year in office. The president has claimed to have the most productive presidency in modern American history. With us for some perspective tonight, our friend, the author and presidential historian, Michael Beschloss. He's with us from Washington. Michael, let's take these one at a time. Okay. Is this, in fact, the biggest tax cut in history?
No, I'm sorry for the president, but it's not. I think economists would say Ronald Reagan, 1981, as a percentage of GDP, it's about 2.9%. And there was also a tax cut that was authored by John F. Kennedy, brought into law by Lyndon Johnson just after John Kennedy's assassination. That was about 1.6%. So Donald Trump comes in at about 1. Maybe it's number 3 or 4.
So you're on the board with the first LBJ reference officially of our conversation. And
does a duck drop from the ceiling?
Exactly. Since we have his name on the board, let's go there. He kind of set the bar for presidents in the modern era in terms of accomplishments early on in his presidency. We know that the current president has claimed to be the most productive, the most successful. Set the record straight for us on just the LBJ presidency and what he was able to push through and sign.
Right. It's a ridiculous claim by President Trump. Yes, he has done some things that could prove to be important this year, but LBJ is the modern gold standard. You and I have talked about it a lot. 1965, he came in with a 61% landslide in the previous year's election, and also he had 68 Democratic senators and 295 Democratic members of Congress. So that set the table. But you combine that with Johnson's legislative skill, and during the first 6 months, 7 months of 1965, those are the things that we mainly remember the Great Society for, things like voting rights and aid to education, Medicare. All those things happened during those early months. That was real accomplishment, and by that kind of standard, Donald Trump and most presidents really pale.
You're not yourself a pollster, but they are too often the coin of our realm.
They are.
What does it make you think of upon learning that this president at the end of year 1 in office is the lowest of any in the modern era of presidential polling?
It shows that he's got real problems with his midterms and 2020, should he run for re-election, most likely. But, you know, the other thing, Brian, is it tells us something about this first year that we didn't know before. You know, on election night last year, popular vote, he got, what, about 47% of the vote? You know, most presidents would have said, I'm going to use that and try to build on that, you know, expand, you know, my following among the American people and try to unite the country. He's had this base strategy, you know, go to the people who feel the most strongly about him. And the result is that you get a poll rating in the 30s, and it makes it very hard for you to do some of the things that you might want to do, especially when you're getting into next year, which is going to be a political year, and many people are going to be a lot less likely to take chances and risks on his behalf.
And as you pointed out, in the moment, that would have started with a passage in an inaugural address to all the people who didn't vote for me, an outreach to everyone who went the other way.
Easiest thing on earth, and instead he gave that inaugural address, which was, you know, basically almost the opposite. You know, if you don't like what I stand for, lump it. And, you know, he had the right to do that. Whether it was the best political strategy for him, the jury is out, and perhaps the biggest immediate test we will see is about a year from now with the midterms.
The speech that may be remembered for those 2 words, American carnage, perhaps the subject and the title
words
of
we've never heard in a speech like that before.